I prefer the real.
Patriarchy.
I said the real.
Patriarchy.
Perfection.
Hey there, Scoobies. Continuing my character analysis of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, we've come to the last facet of Buffy's representations. So far in the series, I've looked at Buffy's spirit, something that takes a serious bashing throughout the show. I've looked at Buffy's heart, which is impulsive, selfish, and often reacts purely from a place of feeling devoid of logic. Which leads us finally to the mind.
You're that smart.
Let me put it this way. Have you ever heard of Plato, Aristotle, Socrates?
Yes?
Morons.
Giles embodies this as the stuffy British bumbling librarian.
Did anyone ever tell you you're kind of a fuddy-duddy?
Nobody ever seems to tell me anything else.
Buffy's mind is prominent in almost every episode, as she often looks to Giles for information on defeating her demons. Often literally.
It seems you encountered the three. Warrior vampires. Very proud and very strong.
How is it you always know this stuff?
But there are times where this is more subtle. I mentioned this already in my Willow video, where she represents the spirit, but I will give this example again. In the episode Innocence, Buffy is reeling from Angel's treatment of her after losing her virginity. Like any teen in this position, her mind is firing all kinds of questions at her.
What do you mean?
Well, something set it off. Some event must have triggered his transformation. Well, if anyone would know, Buffy, it should be you.
I don't.
Well, did anything happen last night that
Giles, please. I can't.
Buffy, I'm sorry, but we can't afford to...
Knowledge is power, something Buffy's enemies would often try to deprive her of. Often literally by knocking Giles out.
How many times have you been knocked out, anyway? I swear, one of these times you're gonna wake up in a coma.
Wake up in a... Oh, never mind.
And later in the show, when the spirit is broken, the first steps to fixing it come from the logical centre. But logic, devoid of heart, can be callous and cold.
Still, she couldn't take human life. She's a hero, you see. She's not like us. Us.
But Giles represents more than just Buffy's mind. In the early seasons, he also acts as the Patriarch. Now, before I talk about Giles, I want to talk about the Watchers, and more specifically the Watchers' Council. Although made up of both male and female Watchers, the Council itself is a stuffy old institution that is a thinly veiled allegory for what would be considered the Patriarchy. In the lore of the show, it is the job of the Council to prepare the Slayer for their calling.
Hey, I know! Why don't you kill him?
I'm a watcher. I haven't the skill.
Oh, come on. Stake through the heart, a little sunlight. It's like falling off a log.
A slayer slays. A watcher...
Watches?
Yes. No.
The Watchers look down upon the Slayer from a position of superiority.
But I think your watcher hasn't reminded you lately of the relative status of the players in our little game. The Council fights evil. The Slayer is the instrument by which we fight. The Council remains, the Slayers change. Been that way from the beginning.
The reason I bring this up is because Giles is the representative of the Council, rigidly following their rules. This is how he has been raised, and these are the values installed in him.
In matters of tradition and protocol, I must answer to the Council. My role in this was very specific.
But, as with all the characters in the show, he too goes on a journey of self-discovery. Sure, it may not be as drastic as some, but he does change. In the beginning, he acts as an instructor. His position is one of power over Buffy. He sends her on missions and is responsible for her welfare.
You were chosen to destroy vampires, not to wave pom-poms at people. And as the Watcher, I forbid it. Mrs. Post, I can assure you that Buffy is both dedicated and industrious, and I am in complete control of my Slayer.
But as the show goes on, there is a dynamic shift. Giles realises that it's not his job to lead, it's his job to advise, to use his knowledge to help. This shift is a natural occurrence due to the developing love he has for Buffy, like a father has for their daughter.
I've recommended to the council, and they've agreed that you be relieved of your duties as Watcher immediately. You're fired.
On what grounds?
Your affection for your charge has rendered you incapable of clear and impartial judgment. You have a father's love for the child, and that is useless to the cause.
The show is generally subtle with its references, but in the episode Primeval, the show literally states each of their roles when the Scoobies become one. Giles' card is Sophus. The card depicts an old man with a lamp, a guide who lights the way.
Spiritus, spirit.
Animus, heart.
Sophus. Mind.
Giles took a step back, still acting as the guide for Buffy, but letting her take the lead, giving her the space to grow.
Everyone just lining up to tell me how unimportant I am. And I finally figured out why. Power. I have it. They don't. This bothers them.
Giles has come to represent a positive male role model, that of the father. His job is to prepare Buffy for the cold, hard world.
Poor technique. Prioritizing subpar. Execution was adequate, but a bit too bloody for my taste.
Buffy is a strong role model for young girls and women, and that's really important. But in modern media, men are often being depicted as bad guys, bumbling idiots, inadequate fathers, sexists, bigots, arrogant overlords, keeping down others. The list goes on. I'm not saying these men don't exist, they do. The problem with this, though, is being the majority of the depictions is that it isn't giving men good role models to look up to.
It was fun. Didn't you have fun? Watch out how you answer that. My ego is fragile. I guess the guy's got to be undead to make time with you.
That's really harsh.
Everyone's got a soul now.
It'll make a difference.
You know, I started it. The whole having a soul. Before it was all the cool new thing.
Oh my god, are you 12?
Okay, I know the superhero genre, there are loads, so just don't at me on that, bro. But this is why Giles is so important to me as a character. He's a strong role model for those young men. And I like to think that he reinvents the role of the Patriarch. He is not insecure about Buffy, and he doesn't allow the strength of others around him to diminish his own.
Why did he call him Ripper?
You should have left when I told you.
Oh.
He welcomes his role as that of the teacher and guide, using his knowledge and wisdom to build up others. When I first watched the show back in the 90s, I really related to Xander. But the older I get, the more I realise it may have been Xander that I relate to, but it's actually Giles that I aspire to.
What am I? I'm an unemployed librarian with a tendency to get knocked on the head and
If you like that video and want to see more from me, please give it a like and a subscribe. Maybe even throw down a comment below. Until next time, take it easy.